Right, we're rolling. On this podcast, we'll be talking about different areas of business and all things marketing. My name is Dave Doyle.
And I'm Dave Alton. This is Social Antics, another marketing podcast.
Hey guys, welcome back to Social Antics. Another week. I think we're in week 13 now. How's things, Dave?
I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. It was good to get the first podcast back last week.
It was a struggle. It took us a long time to get there, but we got there eventually.
To build ourselves up after Christmas. It's like going to the gym after Christmas.
It is. I was like, make Jesus Christ, you have to go research and talk about things, and oh my God.
So I presume we done loads of research for this week then, was it?
No, SuperBowl week. Everything's about SuperBowl, basically.
SuperBowl. Marketer's dream, I suppose, that kind of time of the year.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, 100%. No, but look, to be fair, there's a few follow-up things from last week more so than anything else. So, GameStop stopped. For want of a better
I think we said last week that someone will have to push the red button somewhere, so obviously that happened.
That is what like I mean we said last week, it wasn't a prediction as such, but we did say that there was going to be winners and losers out of this. Did the hedge funds guys lose out in a few bob? Yeah, absolutely they did. But ultimately when you have a kind of a global swell or a movement, or call it whatever you want, with a lot of people who don't know anything about day trading lumping on something because you've got a lot of people on TikTok telling them that it's a good idea, there's a lot of people going to lose out. And if you just think about just basic, you don't know anything about the stock market, just a very, very simple premise. If you have an overinflated stock, bearing in mind that GameStop was $20 and it went up to over $5.50, I think, at one point.
Or something like that, yeah.
And if that's an overinflated price, a grossly overinflated price, and then all of a sudden you have people who start withdrawing their money, which is ultimately what the goal of these guys was, right? It was ultimately so some people may have had a point to make in terms of costing the hedge funds a few bob. The majority of the swell and the kind of community swell behind this came from people who wanted to make a quick buck. If all of those people start withdrawing money, that stock price has to come down. And by that logic, not everyone was going to win. So there was going to be winners and losers, and I'm not talking about the hedge funds versus the Wall Street bets lads. I was talking about in and amongst all of those day traders, and a lot of them weren't even day traders. They were going on to Revolut, going on to Robinhood, and like in a way it shows the danger of some of these platforms, in that it's so easy for you to now invest in things like stocks, in cryptocurrency, and a lot of people have done very, very well out of it, but at the same time it presents a danger that you're turning something which is a fundamental thing for economics and the market into what is essentially gambling. And that's a different change. That's a shift in terms of the way that people would have thought about the stock market previously. So, look, did the Wall Street bets lads prove a point? Yes, they absolutely did. But I reckon a lot of people, genuine people, lost quite a lot of money out of it as well because they didn't know what they were doing.
Now, I wonder, will this happen again? Do you think, is this going to be a trend of power to the people? Whether we're going to ruin hedge funds and all that kind of stuff, or are we going to try and make a quick buck by everyone hop on this?
People are already doing it. Dogecoin is still kind of going on the up and up and up. You had Elon Musk coming out saying that could be the primary cryptocurrency in a number of years' time.
Hops on it, yeah.
This is the cryptocurrency that was made as a joke.
Elon must have a bit of money coming to him in the back end somewhere.
Tesla announced earlier on today that they're investing $1.5 billion in Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. Now again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but again, when you have this swell of people who can now access market opportunities so easily via your Robinhood apps, Revolut, whatever it is, do you know what I mean? Very, very little verification involved in those processes. You got a dog in your house?
I do, yeah. It's she's driving me nuts running around the place. Go on, drive it on.
Right, we won't mention it. Just it's your dog sitting for the evening. Right, fair enough.
The joys of recording at home.
And ironically, we're talking about Dogecoin, where the logo is actually a photograph of a dog.
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be. But look, you're going to see more of these kind of trends where you've got little spikes in the market which are kind of unexpected. A lot of them, recently, have just happened to centre around Elon Musk. You had a situation a number of weeks ago where everyone was moving over to the Signal app because it's meant to be encrypted and it's secure. It's more secure than WhatsApp. Elon Musk tweeted, "Use Signal." So a stock called Signal went up by 1,500%, and it was nothing to do with the app at all. So again, this just shows you like the
talk about influencers.
so this is the thing. People now have, because all this stuff is just such it's at the touch of a button. It's very easy for people to say, "Oh, Elon Musk is tweeting it. It must be right."
Good. He knows what he's talking about.
And you lump the money on then, and you're going on a completely different app. So like, it's. Look, again, I don't know enough about the kind of stock market and what the long-term ramifications are, but I think just from a purely consumer perspective, I think it's a little bit... It can be a little bit dangerous when you're gamifying something like stocks and shares, when people can lose money quite kind of rapidly.
Speaking of Elon Musk, high-powered CEOs and all that kind of stuff, a little bit of news in the last week is that Mr. Bezos...
Yeah, Jeff's gone.
Stepped out, stepped down, stepped wherever. The news was he basically was leaving Amazon, but no, he's not. He's stepping down the role.
Moving up to chairman or something,
or moving up, whatever way you want to look at it. But it's an interesting one, I suppose. Look, obviously he's been running it for so many years. He's made it the biggest, probably. Where is it now? Is it still the biggest company in the world?
Second biggest, behind Apple. Yeah.
Apple's gone ahead. Is it? It was the biggest one.
It was. But no, I think Apple is.
But either way, like when you're up at that level, like you're the biggest company in the world.
Yeah, 100%. No, he's second richest man in the world. Biggest, I would say in terms of a consumer product, like it is only second to Apple in terms of its dominance in industry. Like, I mean, if you think of Apple, right, its main touch point is the consumer.
Yeah.
And it's got the App Store and stuff like that as well, but its main touch point is that luxury product, the iPhone, and it's to the consumer. Amazon impacts upon so many different domains and so many different areas. They own the rails in so many different areas. So if you take like they have their own freight, they have Amazon Entertainment, Amazon Studios, Amazon Prime,
bigger, like,
Cloud. Oh, absolutely! Like it says a lot when their new CEO was the former head of AWS, which is their cloud-based platform. So like that's the way that they're looking, and that's the way that they're going. But look,
he's to me, he always he's like the biggest Dell boy in the market. Like, it's like, where can we make money? We'll pop in there.
Well,
you know?
And there's an I was listening to a different podcast during the week, and they made. I was listening to ourselves. Yeah, I'm narcissistic. I'm not that narcissistic. Listen
Other
to
podcasts available.
Other podcasts are available from all good bookstores. So I suppose what they were basically saying is that, with the money that Amazon generated in revenue every single year, rather than going for a profit-based strategy, they went for a reinvestment strategy. And via that reinvestment strategy, they basically managed over time to turn a lot of their cost centers into profit-making parts of the business. So if you take an e-commerce business that makes money out of freight, like, that doesn't make any sense. Do you know what I mean? Whereas they're doing it. Advertising. I think advertising back in 2017 was something like, it was like a fifth of Amazon's overall revenue. Yeah. And you wouldn't think of Amazon as an advertiser, but that's basically what they're doing. Getting into entertainment and what they're doing there, and just reinvesting. And when you control the channels, I suppose, in so many different areas, that just shows you the dominance of that particular organization. And look, you've got to look. I've ranted away here on multiple occasions about the damages and dangers of big tech and all the rest of it. But look, as a pure business case study, there's very few people that can touch Bezos in terms of what he has achieved with that company over a multiple of times. Like, do you know what I mean? It's
to grow it from a little idea in a room to what he has, like, you know, it's.
And he was older starting that business as well. Like, he wasn't a young man. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like a Zuckerberg type scenario, which I think is important as well from a kind of a maturity perspective. Like, people like Amazon does damage in terms of data capture, own brand products, crushing small retailers, all of that kind of stuff. But in terms of a societal impact, the benefit of Amazon probably outweighs the cons of it, whereas a Facebook is probably the opposite.
Phil saw a gap in the market and filled the need for it. Like, you know, it was a fantastic platform. But there, as you're talking there about, I suppose, moving on to the next bit, follows on, I suppose, a little bit from what we talked about last week with Twitter and Birdwatch, and you were saying there about societal damage and all this kind of stuff. Is
my favourite word. My students are sick of me saying it's societal damage. They're like, teach me about marketing and money.
Well, this what happened in the last couple of days. Facebook is after announcing that it's going to ban anti-vax misinformation, fake news all around COVID. It's really looking into that area. So kind of ties on, I suppose, what we talked about last week with Twitter looking to ban fake news through Birdwatch and all that kind of stuff. So they're all kind of, I suppose, jumping on it, I suppose, at the moment.
They
have to, but I don't know if is this. In one sense, yes, it's all we talked about last week. It's a little too late, kind of. So, but this is new enough, I suppose, with the COVID side of stuff. But they're looking at basically people spreading that it's fake and it's not real, and anti-maskers, all this kind of stuff. That's what they're looking to crack down on. But I don't know if it's a little too late for all this. It's the damage is done. But I suppose it's a bit coincidental that this is all coming now after Trump was gone. There was no real push on this before. Is that one of the reasons? I don't know.
I think it is. They're under pressure now because Congress is looking at ways that they can possibly break these companies up, or at least put more penalties on them, or some sort of do some sort of damage to their market capitalization because they're just too big and they're not behaving in the right way. And this is kind of evolving on from, and I think Tim Cook from Apple didn't do them a lot of favors a number of weeks ago, where he basically said, with Apple, our product is not the consumer. With these other brands, it is the consumer. They're getting it for free and they're selling their data, and this is where the issue comes, because if you've got a purely ad-based model, the more impressions that you get on a particular site, that results or that translates into or the more kind of people who are having a conversation or giving out to one each another, or enragement, the more impressions, the more ads that you sell. So as long as that is the product, this is going to be an issue. And I think they had to. I think they're under so much pressure now and scrutiny from political institutions, and consumers are kind of starting to wise up as well, or a lot of consumers are starting to wise up. And I think that people are gonna, with the damage that has been done with Trump and stuff like that over the last number of years, and people kind of seeing that, the social media platforms are a big part of that. I think people are just kind of looking at it with a bit more kind of cynicism than they would have previously. Now, ultimately, are people going to kind of switch to a different social media platform? Look, they're not. This is never going to be a consumer-led revolution. People are hooked to Facebook, they're wedded to Instagram, and so on and so forth. Do you know what I mean? There's always I might dedicate a bit more attention to TikTok, but no one ever leaves these core platforms, right? Until possibly there's an alternative, because to be fair, and we commented a number of weeks ago that a lot of the social media platforms are kind of the same. Mm-hmm. None of them are really the same as Facebook. It still kind of stands out there by itself. Now, again, I don't use Facebook, but it provides a different function than to what the other platforms do. So, look, I don't think... Look, this is going to be a political political decision. I think that they don't want to get broken up, and therefore they're starting to kind of behave themselves now that Big Joe's
to do good deeds, basically.
Exactly, yeah. No, and it was always going to happen. Mark Zuckerberg had a great relationship with Trump. Do you know what I mean? Every opportunity that Trump had, he was basically bigging up Facebook, and they had a great relationship, and Trump did nothing, even though he's complaining about him a little bit. Ultimately, that relationship worked well for Facebook, more so than any of the other platforms. But that's not going to be the case with the Biden-Harris administration.
Well, I think speaking of alternatives there, as you said, Bebo's on the return.
That is, the man who created Bebo is an absolute genius. He sold it for $850 million. And he bought it back for $1 million. What an absolute genius! Do you know what I mean, in terms of return on investment?
I think it was obviously the start. We had, what was it before that? MySpace, and then you had kind of Bebo, and there was a few others floating around. But realistically, Bebo was the starter of the whole social world
in Ireland. Anyway, yeah, I wouldn't have done any I was too young.
Yeah.
I can't remember it.
You were too busy sharing the love.
I was too busy sharing love with people. Yeah, looking for my 16. Other half, for my top 16. And remember widgets?
Oh, jeez, yeah. I used to love creating the backgrounds and all this kind of stuff. That's actually something that's never really creeped into any of the other platforms. It's literally profile picture, cover photo. But with Bebo, you were able to have your full background and style.
But that's because there was no feed.
True.
Or there was, or at least the primary mode through which you kind of use Bebo was stalking other people's profiles, right? Or you'd bounce around people's profiles, whereas the feed, because remember you'd comments then in each individual page then as well on top of that, so totally different in terms of the overall
I would love
user
to say
experience.
This stage was before my time, sorry Dave, but no, it wasn't. I can remember.
It'd be interesting what they do with it. Like, I mean, it can't be what it was.
Well,
right?
apparently everyone's profiles are gone. You can't log back in, thankfully.
Thank
God. See all the old
Jesus
stuff.
Christ.
See all the old teenage disco pictures.
No, there's nothing wrong. DJ Cammy in the motherfucking mix, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Well, look, that's on the. But look, that's. I remember a year or 2 years ago, it was making a comeback as well. So
yeah, whether it'll happen or not, who knows? Yeah. No, look, I think to be honest with you,
and is it going to take over? From people using TikTok, Snapchat, even speaking of TikTok, there, like, the most downloaded app every month, I think, bar 1 month, which was WhatsApp last year. Like, it's not going to overtake the likes of these.
It's not. No, it's not. It's
It'd want to have something seriously attractive.
It would, yeah. I can't. Even now, when you say, I'm like, another fucking social media network. Another one.
Now, I think it could possibly lead the most downloaded app in the month the minute it launches? 100%. Everyone's going to download it, try and get in, have a look at it, but that's it. I don't think people are going to.
But these like. You find like there's been multiple social media platforms spawned up, and everyone goes, "Oh, that could be the one to take over." You'd Social Vero a number of years ago.
Was the one that was meant to really take off.
And then
year.
I think your man was done for fraud or something. He was dodgy anyway. Then you had Parler, which launched in the US, which is basically
one there at the moment. I think I can't think of what it's called. I seen popping around there during the week. I must check it
Clubhouse.
out. Is that it? Yeah, Clubhouse.
Yeah. So that's the audio kind of idea of it. Yeah. So that's an inch. I've downloaded it. I've used it a bit. I haven't really gone exploring with it yet, but it's basically almost like a series of kind of mini podcasts or chat rooms that you can basically navigate around, and it's all audio based. You know what I mean? So it's a totally different experience.
So we should be on that, should we?
We probably should, yeah.
Okay.
We probably should.
That's your job for next week.
We'll have a meeting there during the week, and we'll decide whether we want to set up a Clubhouse account or not. But
it sounds dodgy, doesn't it?
Clubhouse.
Yeah, I don't like the name of it. Yeah.
You're too cynical.
Too cynical, right? Drive it on. Next one. The week we're in, Super Bowl week. To me, looking back over the last couple of years, I suppose, of being really interested in what happens around Super Bowl and the ads that come out, and even recent years, the ads come out, and every marketer, the next days you're sharing them on Twitter, or we'll be sending them back and forth about checking them out and all this kind of stuff. I think just realistically this year there wasn't the same excitement around Super Bowl as there was in other years. You see, I don't like Super Bowl ads anyway. I think there's too much weight placed on them. $5 million for a 30-second clip when it's completely saturated with ads, right? I mean, you're looking at ads and you don't even know what brands they're associated with because they're just bang, 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 bang. So, to be honest with you, how I would describe Super Bowl, I think it's the advertising agencies, the big advertising agencies, almost calling back to a bygone era of traditional media, television, and ad campaigns centered around the television and audiences that way. Because to be fair, in terms of a television screen and a kind of an audience and audience attention, the Super Bowl is probably one of the few where people do actually consume the ads in full in between the halftime and so on and so forth. So I think that's what it is. It's a callback. And like, I looked at loads of the ads, and look, every year I kind of look for get out of jail free card. Is there a way that I can spend the first 20 minutes of this particular lecture talking about Super Bowl ads? Because it is traditionally, it was important, right? Or historically it was important. Whereas now I'm looking at all of them and I'm going, it's all the same. It's just a load of celebrities lumped into an ad, each kind of all the same story. As you said, you nearly remember the celebrity and roughly what they were doing more so than who they were actually representing. Do you know?
Oh yeah, no, 100%. No, I didn't. There wasn't Reddit. I give Reddit, because Reddit are. We always say it, right? If you're marketing in the year 2020, 21, you've got to play to the audience and the way that the audience consumes content. So in a world whereby everyone has 30-second ads and they're all humorous, what's the way to disrupt that flow and therefore gain attention? And that's what Reddit did. They had a quick 5-second ad, which was basically a message which just flashed up on the screen, and all of a sudden you had people trying to take photos of it, people going onto Reddit going, what was that all about, what's the stuff? Do you know what I mean? So it generated discussion online. Does it do anything for the Reddit brand? I think it probably does on foot of the GameStop stuff the week before, in terms of their prominence as a kind of a forum, or they're not really a social networking platform as such, but the that's what I think the core takeaway for me is that there was nothing there that I saw that I was like, this is incredible, this is something new, this is something that I haven't seen before. It was all very samey. I think
if you look, like, we talked only a couple of weeks ago around the whole idea of Christmas ads, and Christmas ads are totally different in style and, you know, in format, and basically they're trying to create an emotional response. They're trying to, you know, shed a tear, all this kind of stuff. They're really kind of connecting with the audience in a total different way. You look towards what SuperBowl produce, and it's totally different. They go down the route of humor, comedy, you know, trying to, you know, be witty, funny, and I think there is definitely that line of funny and cringe, you know, and a lot of them I do think definitely cross it, and a lot of them that even go, some of them are over 30-second ads, like, you know, and obviously they're paying even bigger bucks, but the thing is, they're too long by the time, you know, you can't it's very hard to do a minute long funny ad. You know, there was one there with Will Ferrell. I was bored by the time it came to the end of it, like, you know.
But that's a cultural thing as well, right? In that these ads are created for an American audience, but yet it's a global audience that looks in at these from the outside. So like, you wouldn't, if you had a big event in the UK, you wouldn't have the same type of ads appearing in front of a European audience. You just wouldn't. So I think it's difficult, but again, I just felt that, and I've felt this for the last couple of years. Bar the odd one or two, you've got the Volvo one from a number of years ago.
The Volvo, like as you said there, about things to take away, and about things to that take away from social, you know, and just not purely to do with the ad, you know, marketing in the moment and stuff like that. Volvo was definitely the best. So a couple of years ago, they had this whole idea. It was called the Volvo Interception. For anyone that hasn't seen it, go and have a look at it. There's a couple of kind of analysis video online, but basically what they did is they took the conversation off the ads. The conversation away from the actual SuperBowl. So what happened was every time, basically, they were giving away 5 cars. Every time a car advert was played online or on the SuperBowl, you had to tweet about it using hashtag, I think it was Volvo contest or something like that. So basically, you were in the chance then to win the car. So basically, there was spikes, like for argument's sake, say every half an hour or hour there was an ad played for a car. You could literally see the spike going for Volvo. Like, they were more talked about than Mercedes, Toyota, Hyundai, whatever was being promoted at the time. And it was absolutely phenomenal marketing, I think, because literally they didn't have an ad in the SuperBowl, so they didn't pay that $5.5 million that some of these other car companies paid. Like, you look at some of the stats around that. In the 4 hours that the SuperBowl SuperBowl was being played for, they had over 50,000 tweets aimed at them, and they had over 200 million earned media impressions. Like, that's phenomenal for an ad that didn't run. It was literally just a few tweets out on social to create a bit of a buzz. Like, that to me definitely merits a raise anyway.
Yeah, but I think you got, look, I would be pretty dogmatic in terms of it's very easy to kind of analyze campaigns and ads and stuff like that and say, oh, that's good for that reason, that's good for that reason. It's very rare that you get the opportunity to actually look under the bonnet and see, well, what was the actual revenue impact of that. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, apparently I don't have the stats now, but they did have a revenue. As I said, there's great videos on YouTube. You just type in Volvo Interception. There's great videos analysing the whole campaign, which is phenomenal.
So yeah, no, it's like we said, I think going for that disruptive campaign is probably the way to go. But again, I just
guerrilla marketing,
digital guerrilla marketing. Oh god. So no, look, I mean, I think, look, there was nothing there that I saw in the SuperBowl that I was.
The only one that's been really talked about is Huggies. Huggies had a video out about basically kind of relating back babies and showing, you know, the nurses back and, you know, going back to when they were a child and showing some pictures and stuff like that. It was very good. To me, it was very nice. It was kind of subtle marketing. There was, like, you know, if they're showing the baby, there was a little Huggies thing in the background, barely noticed, but, like, you know, so I think that was one ad that stood out to me in terms of, I remember the ad, I remember the brand, I remember who it was for. The rest of the ads, there was a couple of funny ones. Like M&M had a very funny one, but once again, you know, it was very clear it was for M&M's. There was another one there with actors, and I haven't a clue. I thought they were very funny. I couldn't even tell you who the actors' names are, but I definitely can't remember what brand they were working for. Do you know? Which is, as I said, we said that's the way the SuperBowl is going. It's more about the celebrity now than who it is.
Yeah, no, I think I'm firmly of the belief that it's just a callback to a bygone era of advertising, that kind of Mad Men generation. I think that's what it is. People in ad agencies approach the SuperBowl going, okay, this is when we can do what we're really, really good at, which is a piece of content on a screen in front of a guaranteed audience. How can we make as much fireworks and explosions as possible? I genuinely think that's the approach that most of them take. It's more of a sledgehammer than a kind of a surgeon's scalpel, shall we say.
Interesting. I think it'd be interesting to actually post this question. So we have a guest speaker coming up next week, who is Ray Keogh from Dublin, who's worked with both of us on different projects. in terms of video. He's a videographer, background mainly in music videography, but he's done a lot of work for us in terms of campaign kind of work and projects. So it'll be interesting to see what his take on maybe the different style of videos and what's kind of working out nowadays.
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, Ray's brilliant, and we've used him on multiple occasions. But I mean, it does show you the difference, right? Like, you can go off and pay a guy like Ray, who just gets the whole new media world, shall we say, and will create something that will work in new media across a variety of different platforms. And like, I mean, give me that every day of the week over any of the big ad houses who just don't get it, shall we say. And I think what I'm always very, very interested in is that like us as marketers, basically, we come up with this is our brand position. This is what the creative, kind of broadly speaking, is going to help us position ourselves in this way in the mind of the consumer. And this is kind of the story that we want to tell to do that. But it's up to the videographer to have the right music, the right tones, the right shade, the subtleties here and there. That's what brings any kind of a campaign to life, really. Like, and again, Ray is an expert at it, so it'll be interesting to kind of to pick his brain.
And do you think, like, I suppose just from your own personal experiences looking at videos and ads nowadays, like how do you think it should be pumped with, even if you're making them, say from a marketing point of view, do you think it should be pumped with the logos or, you know, as you said, brand positioning?
It depends on where, like, so what I always look at these things at is in terms of what the objective of your ad is going to be. And your objective can be brand awareness, it can be recognition, it can be repositioning, it can be customer acquisition, it can be cross-sell, it can be upsell. So it depends on what your objective is as the marketer. And ultimately what you are going to have is you're going to have multiple objectives depending on what stage of the customer or the buying journey that a customer is at. And you're going to be targeting them in different with different techniques depending on what stage of the journey that they're at. Do I believe in kind of forcing an ad down someone's throat? I don't really, but I think a danger that people that happens with some people is they look at someone like a Nike and the Colin Kaepernick ad and they go, oh yeah, very, very subtle, only the Nike logo at the very, very end.
But if you're a small sports shop,
yeah, probably safe enough to assume that you're not going to get the same traction that Nike is going to have. Like, one of the most famous slogans in the world, the Just Do It and the Swish, assume that you're not going to get that type of
serious
reciprocity.
Brand power there.
Exactly. So like, you've got to be you've got to be careful that, yeah, there's that emotional connection, there's that right story, bleed the brand in throughout, absolutely. But again, there are times where you do just need a big dirty logo on something so people know what you're talking. Because again, if you're selling something which, if you take a supermarket, hyper reality in a supermarket, 20,000 products, and someone is just walking and they're almost on autopilot, they're not checking things, they're just on absolute autopilot. If you are investing in a piece of content and you want the consumer out of the corner of their eye, because that's all it's going to be, to see your logo and say, oh yeah, connection, and just pick it up and become part of their automated shopping journey, there needs to be some sort of recognition in there. And if you completely bury your logo in a nice piece of content, might be a lovely piece of content, but it's not going to make you any money. So there's it's a balancing act, again, depending on what stage the buyer is along that particular journey.
I think it's also interesting to look at, like, you know, we talk about the Super Bowl there, the ads going out. Are these ads getting more traction and results from the ad through the Super Bowl, or are they getting it from the follow-on digital, you know, and online, people looking at it on YouTube and social media and stuff? Which one actually works better? Yes, you have to pay the $5.5 million to get it on the Super Bowl in the first place, but then to be able to be talked about then following on social.
I'm sure there's that on. I never really looked at, but I think, but as well as that too, I think, so you have to analyse the Super Bowl ads for what they are, right? They're ads and they're pieces of content, but people kind of go seek them out and they say, oh, I like that one, I like that one, I like that one, but they like it for the creative. It doesn't. The
only people that really do that are marketers.
I'm not sure about that, and it was mainly marketers, to be fair. But I mean, I do think there's an element here whereby people are kind of aware that it's an ad because it's so blatantly obvious that it's an ad, and then people, they look at the content and say, oh, that's funny, that's the best ad, I like that ad. No one ever says that, I like an ad. That's not how advertising works. It's
that's only marketers.
Exactly, it's the antithesis of how advertising is meant to work. So I think there's an element here whereby people are so aware of Super Bowl ads that it has actually no impact in terms of building brand value. Now there's some brands in recent year, like Debt Wish Coffee, for example. I think they got some funding from somewhere. I can't remember what it was, and they advertised. So obviously, in terms of just brand recognition, that was absolutely insane for them in terms of traction. But the brands that are already established, I don't see a huge amount of benefit. There's almost a case with a lot of these brands where I think it'll be worse if they're seen not to be in the Super Bowl as opposed to having an ad up there. Do you know what I mean? So look, it's interesting.
Some of the names that usually would be in the Super Bowl didn't attend this year, and obviously, look, they knew, are we best off putting their spend elsewhere for the year? But you look at the Super Bowl, it's the same contenders each year. Like, you have, I think, is it Doritos, Mountain Dew is always in there. Budweiser, in some shape, they had Bud Light was this year was their main focus. And talk about celebrities, that was just right. Get out the phone book, let's see who we can get in. It was literally celebrity after celebrity.
It's like when they were making the Expendables, right? We've got no script whatsoever. Just ring everyone. So we'll get the lads from Pulp Fiction and we'll get Terminator and we'll ram them together and come up with something. And that's what it was. No, I look, I'm not a big Super Bowl man anyway. I don't really. Again, I like to see how marketers approach it, but again, more from that kind of strategic side. How do we hijack it, as opposed to like I think that's interesting. And going back to the Volvo thing, I think that anyone that can be, as you said, how can we hijack it? You have to be creative nowadays. Like, obviously businesses do not have, and if we even think about a local or a national brand that in Ireland, like, they're not going to have the spend or anything to even approach something like the Super Bowl, or maybe not even their audience. But is there a way they can jump on their audience that are watching the Super Bowl, or hijack a little bit of someone else's audience that are watching the Super Bowl? And there has been brands to do it, So I think, what way can you approach it? Maybe start thinking next year, is there a way we can be a little bit creative around the Super Bowl night? Yeah, no, absolutely. No, again, it's that hijacking element. But look, again, I think it's I would like to look at, because we always hear the Volvos and stuff like that, and the Reddits and stuff like that. I would like to know how many brands try that every year and it just flops. Oh, of course. Like, look, and Volvo, you have to, we might say Volvo done it with, zero money spent. No, they had a full team working on this. Yeah. They have, hundreds of a marketing team working on this kind of a thing. That has to be said as well. I think it was interesting to show, the time that we're in. We already talked about, the fact that a lot of these ads, the ones that I've seen anyway, stayed away from COVID, but it shows the times that we're in, that two Super Bowls ads actually use the same stock footage. I saw that, which is it's like, cringe. No, it's like wearing the same dress at the Oscars. Do you know? It's like it's up there with that. So I think it was like when I saw it initially, I was kind of going, okay, yeah, COVID, because they couldn't film properly during COVID. But then I saw the other ads and I was like, they could definitely film during COVID. Like, do you know what I mean? It wasn't great, to be honest. The two businesses that done it was Guaranteed Rate and Indeed, and basically they used the same footage, and it just shows that, we talked there a few minutes ago about getting Ray to shoot a video. Obviously you're spending, these brands are normally going out and shooting their own video, but next thing they're relying on stock footage, because whether they can't get a team out, they can't come up with ideas, their teams are working at home, maybe it was a last minute decision, we'll go towards stock footage, but realistically you should be trying to get exclusivity on this stock footage, and not just go on to Unsplash or Google Images and pull stuff down, that kind of a thing. Copy and paste. Obviously it's going to go against them. But any other news pop up for you this week? The only other one that I thought was kind of relatively interesting was Twitter. So Twitter kind of announced, now they've done this before and they haven't really followed through with it, but Twitter announced that they're looking at the possibility of a subscription model for their platform, which I think could be very, very interesting. Twitter's business model is, they're doing better now, to be fair. They lost money for years and years and years and years. I think last year the turnover, or the projected turnover, is like 1.2 billion. About 30% of that is profit. That's based on their ad model, but they've only got about 0.8% of the overall digital advertising market, which is paltry in comparison to Google and Facebook. So I like the idea, based on what we said last week about the verified users and things like that. You would pay for Twitter? I would pay for Twitter. And what would you be, in your head, what would you be willing to pay? £5 a month. A month. I was going to say how 5 month a year, or what? €5 a month. I'd probably go to 10. Really? Would I do it? Do you know? To be honest, I probably would. I really enjoy Twitter. I think it's a great platform. And it would be made even better if the audience was somewhat shrinked, got rid of all the gutter nonsense in there, and you could actually have discussions around proper things. Like, Twitter haven't innovated in years. Like, they haven't done anything. Like, I mean, the likes of Clubhouse now, That's something Twitter should have been looking at.
You have your fleets that you were using yesterday?
Useless. Oh, you fucking Jesus Christ.
I was very proud of him. For everyone listening, I was very proud of him yesterday. He put up, listen to our show.
Doyle does all the marketing. I'm just like, nah, I'm not doing that.
No, but I think, yeah, you're right. They haven't really done that different. You know, they've tried bringing in things here and there. They tried bringing in stuff like, you know, the worst one I saw was it was actually only a couple of months ago. They tried bringing in this whole idea of almost like the stories thing on Instagram, where it was like disappearing tweets after 24 hours. I was like, what's the point? They disappear anyway. You know, the whole idea of Twitter is put something up, it'll be gone in a couple of hours. It's meant to be like, you know, the whole idea of it at the start was like, you know, throwing out your thoughts kind of a thing, and obviously that turned into, you know, Trump threw out too many thoughts there, but of
course,
but that was the whole idea of it, like, you know, it's meant to be disappearing tweets anyway. So like, you know, they're coming up with stuff that doesn't really make sense.
No, of course, but I do think, going back to the main, I think the idea of a subscription model is interesting. I think it's something that it would cut the audience down, it would cut out the bots, you could have a proper verification system, and I think, look, ultimately, like, no matter what way you skin it, what do I use Twitter for in comparison to the other? So if I look at TikTok, I use TikTok if I want to kill 3 hours of my day and I want to laugh at dogs dancing. That's essentially what I use TikTok for, and it's very, very immersive, and it's a great 3 hours of my time. YouTube long form content, predominantly looking back at old episodes of Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares is predominantly what I use YouTube for. But it's long form content, or mid form content, we'll say, between the 5-10 minute kind of mark thereabouts. Some even longer than that. Snapchat, I don't use Snapchat because I'm not. And once again, it's only select few. Literally, it's just like almost like a messaging service. That's all I use it for. I wouldn't use it for, you know, there's the whole subscription, follow people and all that. Don't use it. Literally, it's just a messaging platform, and that's what it's become for a lot of people. Yeah, so don't use Snapchat. Instagram, I don't use it. I don't like it. I use it for business purposes. I don't mean me personally. I mean some of the businesses that I work with, I need to understand it for that. But I don't like it for personal reasons. I think it's, if you're interested in photography and stuff like that, I'd rather watch a fucking nature documentary or something on Amazon Prime. I'm not interested in this kind of stuff. So
I do think I would disagree there. I do really enjoy Instagram. I think they've hit that sweet spot in terms of every feature they've brought out works. It's good. It adds value. I do think Instagram is a fantastic platform.
You mean all of the features that they copied directly from Snapchat?
No, they copied it and made it better.
They did, yeah, of course, yeah.
They ran Snapchat into the ground.
Anyway, my point is that all of these platforms serve a different purpose. But with Twitter, for me, it's about global, international, local news.
Okay.
And it's news about, it's actual news in terms of our definition of news in and of itself. But it's also looking at kind of, you know, personalities in business, what individual businesses are doing, predominantly in the locality. So it's a blend. Like, if you go through my feed, it's a blend of your ad ages, your ad week, probably CNN's, BBC, Sky, Guardian, but then it's local guys and giving their opinion on this stuff as well, and giving opinions on stuff that's going on locally. And obviously it's handy then as well to kind of, you know, interact with students. Some of them send questions if they're looking to do a master's or something like that, so it's handy. It's
would you get more of that on Twitter or LinkedIn?
Twitter,
really,
more so than anything else. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Now it'd be close enough, but it'd be more Twitter, I would say.
I would get more of that kind of stuff, like, you know, after maybe, you know, speaking, you know, if I popped into one of your classes for a guest lecture or something like that, yes, you get a few follows on Twitter, but I would get more follows and interaction and comments, messages through LinkedIn. It'd be more LinkedIn.
Yeah. No, I find LinkedIn very sterile. I think it's just so false. It's ridiculous.
I think they're changing it around. I think it's a really, really good platform at the moment. I think it's not that it's becoming more fun, but it's becoming more informal. No, it still needs to stay what it is, I think, you know, to make it that professional network, but I do think it's becoming more of an attractive platform.
Possibly. Yeah, I haven't seen it. I just find LinkedIn, I look at it and I'm just like, you people are cringe. Like, all this, like, oh,
go on, who are you going to have a pop-up?
I can't even remember. You see them all the time, the virtue signalling that goes on in terms of, I started driving my second car to work because I didn't want my employees to feel bad, and Jesus Christ, like,
I saw one last night. I was let go because of COVID, and now I've really enjoyed turning around. I'm, you know, standing at the door of a supermarket. I'm delivering for Amazon. I was pot washing in the local nursing home, all this kind of stuff. He was like a high-end CEO or something like that of a business, and I'm like,
You're a multi-millionaire, mate. Like, you're not doing it. You're not doing too bad. Like,
we'll see you next year.
I don't think anyone who, like, has a package of any multiple million or even in the 100,000s is allowed to use the phrase "I lost my job."
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean? It just doesn't
You're all right for
apply.
a few months. But no, it's interesting to see, I suppose, different takes. Like, you know, even on social media, like, you know, I would definitely be gravitating towards Twitter, Instagram, and then LinkedIn as a close third there. Like, you know, but it'd definitely be Twitter and Instagram.
Twitter. Mainly.
It's interesting to pay for it though. Would you pay for any of the other social platforms?
Not a hope in hell. Not even. I wouldn't.
Would you pay for LinkedIn?
I wouldn't. But wouldn't bat an eyelid at it. I don't use LinkedIn. I scroll and it annoys me because people are stupid on it and they do the virtue signaling nonsense.
But for work and career purposes, would you pay for LinkedIn?
I've never gotten any benefit out of LinkedIn in terms of my own. I can't point to anyone who sent me a message and said, like, you know, do this or do that or John meet for a coffee. It's all done through Twitter predominantly.
Would you pay for? It's always like a forgotten. It's not really noticed in social media, but social messaging platform. Would you pay for? I know they did have to pay for. Would you pay for WhatsApp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. It's the main communication tool that I use.
And would you pay like up to your €10 a month for that?
I pay €10 a month as long as they got rid of the meta scraping of data. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So again, the idea here is that if you're paying for something, the platform has to get better. So therefore, at the moment, all of these platforms are selling you're the product, so it's your data. So therefore, there has to be a shift in that. Now, I know WhatsApp is encrypted, but they still look at the metadata, so they can still target you based on what you're actually having a discussion about. So, like, that stuff has to be peeled back, and it needs to be measured and monitored properly, shall we say. And there needs to be proper, clear regulations around what data is being captured, what it's being used for, where it's being sold, all that kind of stuff. But no, I would rather pay for something and know what I am getting than me being the product. And I also think it would trim things down a bit. I would have no problem. Like, I don't need Facebook. I don't need Instagram. Those can go over there, shall we say. I can survive without them.
Facebook for definitely like in what we do in our day-to-day job. Like, Facebook is the only real ad like, yes, Instagram is up there as well, but Facebook is your ad platforms really for social media. Like, you know, Twitter doesn't come anywhere close in my opinion.
Nah, doesn't.
You know, they don't. It's the only one. So I think Twitter needs to look at its ad platform, you know, because definitely if you're going down this route of subscription, there's going to be a lot more I suppose, you know, there's going to be a lot more clear audience on it. Like, you know, it's not going to be much shite on it anymore. Twitter's ad model is terrible. I've used it a few times, and the targeting is nowhere near as sophisticated as Facebook, and for good reason. The flip side of that, then, if you paid for Twitter and you start getting a lot more ads like Facebook, is it still the same platform?
But you wouldn't be getting more ads though.
But if they improve their ad model, because the audiences are more defined on it. But
that's a measure. Like, you're not going to pay a subscription for something that you get a huge amount of ads on. Do you know what I mean?
What I'm saying. So, like, you wouldn't.
What?
You wouldn't pay for it.
No, I would pay for it if it got rid of the ads.
Yeah. So there's no. So once the ads stay the way they are, basically shite, and you don't really see them, you're happy with that.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. But no, their ad like, I don't think I've ever clicked on that on Twitter. Never.
No, I haven't. You kind of get the same ones popping up. Like, I remember, was it Uber or Halo or one of them when they were going?
I enjoy. Do you know what
constantly.
Do you know what I enjoy now? It brings me joy every day of the week without a shadow of a doubt.
Listen up.
If I am scrolling through Instagram or something like that, and the ads for Wish pop up.
Oh yeah.
They are the funniest ads of all time. The other day, I had the opportunity to buy a gun, a balaclava, a tent.
What's your search injury?
This is the thing. They're absolutely, like, there is nothing that I can think of that I have searched for which would make Wish want to serve me a gun, or the glow in the dark keyboards. Those are a particular favourite on They are the funniest. It is the most entertaining thing about Instagram when I come across a Wish ad and go, what crazy marketing person is after targeting me with this today? Like, do you know what I mean? It's absolutely brilliant.
No, it's interesting. Look, I think there is going to be more. Definitely, if there are any platforms coming down the line, I think they will go down this route of kind of, a more defined audience with paid subscription. But the thing is, they have to be seriously offering something to get people onto the platform. You know, you can't just come along with a paid platform and hope people are going to go on it. Like, and that's why you have to get the teaser of people on. But it's very hard to turn around and get paid after.
Get rid of the ads. Stop monetizing consumers. The consumers' data. Have your verified sources. curb back all of the algorithms around all of the fake news and all that kind of stuff. Curb all of that back. Have proper moderation of content.
It's going to be a very boring platform.
Huh?
It's going to be a very boring platform.
That's what we want. We need a sterile, boring platform. Because people because I find I come across things on Twitter and they're actually really, really interesting. But then I'm scrolling incessantly through nonsense to find another interesting thing. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of it is, again, not so much fake accounts.
Would you be a fan of an unfollow now on Twitter, would you?
Oh, I'm a big fan of an unfollow. Oh, I do a cull there once every now and then.
I think I do a good one.
I don't like your content, get rid of you. Don't like your content, but I'm keeping you because you'll notice.
It's like the thing on Facebook, like, you know, fed up seeing someone's post. Oh, I can't unfriend them because I'll hide their content. I think it's genius.
God's sake, yeah. No, I'd be a fan of a colour.
I think I'm due a good one at the moment. So I think that's everything for this week, is it, Dave?
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Exciting.
I've got nothing exciting. It's actually been it's been a bizarre week with the GameStop stuff, with the Super Bowl, Bezos kind of going into semi-retirement. There's been actually a lot going on, but there's not a huge amount of how could I just say? There's not a huge amount of marketing. Yeah, there's not a huge amount of stand like something. I go, I want to talk about that. That's very, very interesting. So yeah.
Well, I said next week we'll have Ray Keown, who is, you know, in my head, you know, definitely one of the best videographers in Ireland in terms of a freelance one-man band kind of a thing. Do you know, you're not working with a big agency. Ray is fantastic to work with. So we'll have him on next week where we're talking all things video, content creation, storytelling through video. You know, seeing if there's any bits of advice maybe for businesses nowadays that maybe can't avail of someone like Ray. You know, what could they be doing to keep their content going? Do you know? Yeah,
no, I think that should be really interesting. Like, the art of storytelling to me is still the differentiator in all things marketing. Mm-hmm. Like, all things being equal, you can all use the ad platforms in a certain way. If you're at the top of your game, you can have ad or analytics models in place that allow you to measure attribution and all that kind of stuff. If you're talking about brand strategy, the differentiator is still content, and that is predominantly happens through storytelling in a variety of different ways, be it through static, you've got your vertical video, your long form video on YouTube, and bringing that whole kind of marrying that whole story together using multiple different mediums, I think is it's an art that I think is very much underappreciated now.
Looking forward to that next week. So thanks very much to everyone for listening. After all the giving out of social, don't forget you can go and follow us on social media. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. I
don't give out about Twitter that much. I just think Mark Zuckerberg, I can't finish that, so I was going to say something there. Just wrap it up. Right, before we end up in trouble, good luck, lads. Thanks. See you next week.